This is the Hockey Podcast Network, your home for hockey talk on every team in the NHL.
Welcome to Offside by a Mile, the podcast for anything and everything Colorado Avalanche, and the official Avs podcast for the Hockey Podcast Network. Well, the Stanley Cup final is not over.
It is not. I was, kind of thinking it might have been yesterday. I guess, Saturday.
Monday night may be the end, and if it's not the end, Wednesday night is going to be insane.
Spicy. Yeah, exactly.
As Brett just pointed out, Monday is 363 days since puck drop of the very first day of the season for 2019-2020. Yes, COVID, but holy shit, that's crazy just to think about, because I haven't thought about that at all, because we're in September. It's still September. Hockey's, it's fine. But yeah, we're fucking, Wednesday will mark a full calendar year of hockey.
And if you think about it, Wednesday probably in a normal year would have been probably the start date for the season, right? Because I think they usually start on Wednesday or Thursdays, right?
Yeah, normally. I think it's normally this year I would assume it would have been October 1st.
Yeah.
Which would have been Thursday. But obviously that ain't happening.
Nope.
We're 10 days away from draft day and free agent craziness day.
Which is also crazy to think that it's just that quick of a snap. It's turn around. Let's go next year.
So for some reason in my head, I was thinking that free agent frenzy was going to start on the 6th or something. And then we sat down and I wanted to confirm. And yeah, it's the 9th, which is fucking crazy because it's the same day as the first round of the draft, which is just mental to me. Because if you're a team that's trying to sign Pietrangelo, or you're trying to sign Taylor Hall, or you're trying to sign Markstrom or whatever, some big fish that generally, we know the NHL free agent frenzy day. The big fish, generally speaking, go to wherever they're going day one.
Oh, yeah. For the most part, right? There's maybe one that'll kind of linger for a bit.
Yeah. How the hell are you supposed to focus on that and then also focus on the first round of the draft a few hours later?
Yeah.
I understand you're probably, especially if you're Ottawa, Detroit, the teams that are up at the top of the draft board, you probably have your plan set in stone. If this guy's available, we're taking him. If this guy's not, we're taking this guy, blah, 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 blah. But if you're a team that's 10 through 25-ish, you're probably a team that's in the running for Pietrangelo, Hall, Markstrom, one of those guys that you want to go nuts on free agency, but you also have no idea who's going to be available when it gets to your pick.
Yeah.
And it's just, that's got to be why did they decide to do that?
And
why don't you run free agency? Because normally the draft is before free agency.
Yeah.
Why do we not open free agency on the 12th?
Yeah, the following week, right?
It's not like we're starting the season in November.
Yeah, and I mean, it just kind of goes with the flow of what the NHL is doing, is that some of this shit is just kind of rushed and seems a little unprepared in a way.
Unnecessary too.
Unnecessary is a good word. Yep.
Man, you're right though. It definitely seems very NHL-y for sure.
It's I'm trying to think of what the other thing was. I guess it was just the draft lottery itself, right?
Yeah.
That was kind of just okay.
Could have done the draft lottery a month ago. It would have been the same result. Just wouldn't have had the second lottery.
Yeah, exactly. But 2020, baby.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, that being said, last Monday we finally got results. We finally heard who did and did not win their trophies. Cale Makar. Of course, Cale Makar won the Rookie of the Year. I mean, who had a doubt? Nobody had a doubt, right?
Yeah.
But like Jared points out a little bit later in the episode, Cale Makar 116 first place votes.
Okay, thank you for actually looking up the
Quinn
numbers,
Hughes
too.
with 53.
Yeah.
Which, again, because of the point system, they end up with, like, Cale Makar ends up with 1,538 points. Quinn Hughes ends up with 1,337. So, really, in the points department, it's not a very big spread. But, clearly, where Cale Makar won the votes was his first place votes. 63 more votes for first place, which I think is fair.
I think it's fair too. I just didn't expect it.
I had definitely expected it somewhere around like the 90 to 70 or something.
Yeah.
But I mean, at the same time, how many articles did we see over the last 2 months? I'm voting Cale Makar. I'm voting Cale Makar. I'm voting Cale Makar. And
Yep.
I personally thought it was the Google algorithm just pushing it my way, making
Yeah.
me feel happy about Cale Makar. But apparently it was real. Like, there was just a lot of people that believed in Cale Makar. And, you know, I'm glad it was West Coast versus West Coast. Or, like, you know, Western Conference versus Western Conference.
Mm-hmm.
Because we don't have to hear about the bullshit, like, all East Coast bias crap this year.
Right. Yep.
Right? If Cale Makar would have been, you know, somewhere in the East, you know, that would have been the narrative.
Actually, yeah, all three of the
Yeah.
candidates are from the West Conference this year, which is interesting.
That is very interesting. But yeah, so it's just I'm glad. I'm really glad we didn't have to deal with that.
Yeah.
Now, the one that people are still upsetty about, Nathan MacKinnon not winning the Hart. I've seen many a story about how Nathan MacKinnon lost the Hart vote to Taylor Hall. What, 3 years ago?
Right.
When Taylor Hall did exactly what Nathan MacKinnon did this year.
Yeah.
And everybody's all butthurt about it because Nathan MacKinnon got screwed and he's 0-2, and he's done it in different ways. Because when he did it against Taylor Hall, he had a lot more points than Taylor Hall, but Taylor Hall had 40 more points than the next guy on his team. Well,
Right.
this year, Nathan MacKinnon had like 50 more points than the next guy on the Avs. But the thing is, when Taylor Hall won the Hart, the first place point getter that made the playoffs, because we know in the NHL the Hart vote only goes to somebody who makes the playoffs.
Yeah,
And
pretty
yes,
much.
this year was a weird one because 24 teams made the playoffs, quote unquote, in the NHL's eyes, which means the Edmonton Oilers made the playoffs, which they didn't make the final 16. They had their first round pick, blah, 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 blah. It's annoying, but what they made the playoffs. They were a team that was going to make the playoffs
Yeah.
before the pause. Period. Pure and simple, end of story. That was happening. Leon Draisaitl had 110 points in 69 games.
Mm-hmm. It's crazy.
Just like Taylor Hall did not beat somebody that had that many points. Because in that full season, it would have been like 130 points.
Yeah.
And if Taylor Hall would have won the Hart over some guy that had 130 points, I would have been flabbergasted.
Yeah.
The highest point getter that made the playoffs that season was Claude Giroux at a 102
Right.
in a full season, which, again, still a lot of points. Getting over that century mark is a big deal.
Yeah.
But Taylor Hall beat the top guy in a very different fashion. I don't think you can vote against Leon Draisaitl this year because he was a stud. 110 points is crazy in 69 games.
Well, and like you think about how many games that he legitimately won the game for the Oilers as well. And like you could say that about MacKinnon as well. But like you said, those points, you can't really argue with that. Plus with the fact that, you know, McDavid was out of the picture for several of those very, very clutch wins for Draisaitl.
That's the thing, right? Like, Draisaitl didn't play with McDavid as much as usual this year. That's why Draisaitl had so many more points than him.
Yeah.
And again, we've talked about this before. We know that the NHL Hart Trophy is not most valuable player. It's most outstanding player.
Yeah.
That's just the way she goes. Taylor Hall, on a rare occasion, won it for being the most valuable guy.
True. Yeah.
And as much as we want to argue, Nathan MacKinnon was the most valuable player this year. And I do believe, we've said it before, I do believe he should have won the most valuable player. But the way it gets voted on the NHL, Leon Draisaitl's winning. If Nathan MacKinnon would have finished anywhere but second, I would have been pissed.
Oh, yeah. 100%.
I would have been losing it.
100%.
But he finished second, and he deserved to finish second. And that's where I'm going to leave it. Because I again, until the awards change, until we have an MVP and an MOP, it's going to be the Hart's going to be the most outstanding player. It's just the way it's going to be. And we always talk about value in like how valuable they are to the team. We could start looking at it in how valuable they are to the dollar. Because Leon Draisaitl, but again, right, if you start looking at it that way, then it becomes the most outstanding player, which is where we're at. But again, like was said in a few articles, we have an award for most points.
Yeah.
But it always seems, on the majority of occasions, most points means you get the Hart. Especially if it's a pretty big margin.
Yeah.
Like if you win by 1 point
last year?
Yeah, but he had like 20 more points
exactly,
in the next
that
guy.
made sense. Yeah.
Right? Leon Draisaitl, same thing.
Yeah.
Right? But again, if you want to talk about most valuable in the dollar figure, most points is most valuable.
Yeah.
Right? So it depends how you define the word value in the MVP. But again, I still think the Hart is the MOP trophy, not MVP.
Yep. I mean, and history kind of shows us
it's been that way. It's basically, did you make the playoffs? Okay, now who's the most outstanding player out of that group?
Yeah.
That's the way the Hart gets voted on. And it sucks. It sucks that, of course, Nathan MacKinnon's first time being up for the Hart, he loses to the MVP. While being the MOP. Right. And then the time that he's the MVP, he loses to an MOP. Yeah. It just sucks. I get it. As a fan of the Avs, I get it. It sucks. But, I mean, really, these two trophies don't matter because the Avs lost in the second round. They don't. It's just a little silver lining on the shitstorm that was the end of the second round.
Right, and I'm sure Nathan MacKinnon, we all know what kind of character he is. He ain't fucking worried. He ain't fucking worried at all about that.
The big silver trophy with a cup on top is the only one most of these guys care about.
One thing that I just found interesting and kind of made me just happy was that Connor McDavid was literally not nominated for any trophy this year.
Which is
insane, right? Because it's year after year. It's like McDavid for this, McDavid for that, McDavid for all these trophies. Every trophy, McDavid's up for it. And then this year, it's like, I don't see McDavid anywhere. Which is
still crazy because if you got to choose, like if you straight up got one pick to start your team, right? Period. As much as I love Nathan MacKinnon, I'm taking McDavid.
Well, like, I mean, it's tough, but like seriously, the guy's fucking crazy good, right? Obviously, like, if you ask,
don't be the guy that just calls it, like, says the hot take because he can,
right?
Like, he is the best player in the world right now.
Like, if you ask 100 hockey fans who the best player is in the world, I'm sure the majority are saying McDavid, right? I don't know. It's just kind of refreshing to see a new slate of nominees for all of these different kinds of trophies.
That's fair.
Right?
That's fair.
It was just an interesting thing that I noticed, and I'm sure a lot of people did notice about that. I think he came in like fifth for Hart votes. I think something like that, which is interesting.
It's surprising, but again, I mean, if Nathan MacKinnon didn't finish second, I would have been pissed. If it would have been Leon Draisaitl and then Connor McDavid in like third, I would also been pissed because you can't have that.
Right? Yeah, like we talked about that throughout the last few months about you can't have two best players
on a team.
Yeah, right. Like that wouldn't have made sense.
I've seen so many comments on Twitter where it's just like, man, you guys couldn't even get out of the qualifying round with two of the best players in the world, including a Hart Trophy winner.
Yeah.
And a guy that's won a Hart Trophy before. Like, come on. But it's
poor Oilers.
Oh, they just love to kick themselves in the balls. Oh, man,
never ceases to amaze.
Never change. It's just never change. Oh.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I mean, there's that. It was like, I don't know. I thought the award winners were on par with what I expected.
Yeah, Hellebuck got the.
He
Vezina, which we were talking like if it's anyone else, you're fucking snoozing, man. Like so.
He beat the field by 20 points. Like,
yeah.
Like that's in my opinion how it is. Like he was just the only reason the Jets were even in the qualifying round was because Hellebuck.
Yeah.
And a little bit of Paul Murray's.
Yeah.
Right? But again, I think I said it a couple episodes. A good coach always has a good goalie.
Yep.
Always.
Yeah, they make each other look good for sure.
Right, and it's I don't know. I'm so interested to see what the Jets do this offseason for defensive help because as much as we want defensive help, man, they need defensive help.
And speaking of, I guess that little tidbit of news that Dustin Byfuglien's agent came out and basically said he's not playing anymore. That's just kind of interesting.
So he basically retired Byfuglien?
Yeah, pretty
That's
much.
An interesting move.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, I guess it's not really surprising because I'm assuming he still has an injury.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I'm sure there's still that going on.
There. It's too bad.
It's a crazy story that we're never probably going to hear the end of. We'll just probably never hear what really happened.
Yeah. One of those things.
But yeah, so, I mean, we were hoping kind of that the Stanley Cup final would be over. So we could kind of talk about that. I mean...
Then Corey Perry's got to ruin it.
Fucking Corey Perry has to go just shit all over it.
Fucking Corey Perry.
So I'm really curious as to how Corey Perry has his wife there.
Oh yeah.
Where's everybody else's wife?
Honestly, I think it was. I'm not exactly sure, and definitely don't quote me on this because I fucking don't know. But I'm pretty sure it's just kind of at a certain point that you're able to bring in whoever you wanted to.
And like 5 people did.
Yeah, like for really, there's like no one there.
Yeah, like
it's like just her. Like I haven't seen any other people.
You think everybody would have their wives if you have a wife. You'd feel like they'd be there.
Yeah, but I guess kids and stuff.
Yeah, but he's got kids.
But he does exactly right, and because it shows like his kid every once in a while on the screen
like
too,
at home or like I don't know
wherever with his grandparents probably or something, right?
But yeah, it's just weird to me. But again, right? They brought it up in Game 5. Like he scored 3 goals in front of her now.
Yeah.
In 2 games, and you're just like
he's getting the boom boom in the bubble.
Maybe that's what it is. Maybe it's
getting a little spark.
Unfair advantage, performance enhancing drugs. What is this crap?
Oh shit.
Corey Perry's cheating. Like he cheats all the time. No way. Also Friday night's game. I just need to have a conversation because I tweeted about it. And I still believe this. The silver lining of the Avs being out is the fact that we get to sit back and we get to watch Twitter just explode when stupid shit like what Jamie Benn did happens.
Yeah.
So, for those that didn't watch the game and have been under a rock, Jamie Benn takes the most egregious holding, tripping, almost slew-fitting, interference, whatever the hell you want to call it, penalty in overtime. After Braden Point gets hooked in the dick by Corey Perry at the end of the 3rd period and gets called for diving.
Yeah.
And after the Dallas Stars had a 4-on-3 power play in overtime, Jamie Benn takes the most egregious multitude of penalty you can take in overtime, and Tampa Bay scores the game winner. Shattenkirk scores the game winner.
Yeah.
And Dallas Twitter blew the fuck up. And it was so good. I grabbed the popcorn. I grabbed the marshmallows. I just watched and had a gay old time. Because, oh my God, that was amazing.
Yeah. Honestly, yeah. And it's so funny, just like how many GIFs and memes you see of, just pictures of refs. And then it's like, oh, most valuable player for the Tampa Bay Lightning. Like, give me a fucking break, dude.
As the Nuggets fans that follow this podcast are sitting there going, no, that's the Lakers jersey, actually.
Yeah.
But, man, I like Steve Koulias, who is a ex-commentary guy who works for SiriusXM, NHL radio, whatever. He posted, like, that's not a penalty. And I've just, like, fans have said it's not a penalty. And I understand, okay, if you're a fan, you're biased. It is what it is. You're going to argue till the cows come home that it's not a penalty. But as a unbiased announcer of sports, or whatever you want to call a radio guy, whatever, The fact that you can look at Jamie Benn straight up haul Tyler Johnson down. You can argue that Tyler Johnson runs interference. But that is a play that happens in overtime, and we've watched it in the playoffs 100 times.
Yeah.
It's exactly the one that I say is not interference that I've said a million times. Tyler Johnson loses the puck, and he's battling for position over Jamie Benn while he's trying to play the puck. He's not taking a guy that's like he's not a different guy that's just coming in and running interference on Jamie Benn. He is legitimately trying to battle Jamie Benn for the body position.
Yeah.
That's a fine play in my opinion, especially in overtime in the Stanley Cup final. But then, if you want to argue the interference, then you can argue Jamie Benn's stick lift that was on the glove, which is a slash in the NHL today. It's not a slash in the playoffs, mostly. But we can agree that most of the time in the regular season, you hit a guy's glove trying to stick lift him, that is a slash
You're
now.
getting called for some kind of stick infraction.
Either a hook
right?
or a slash in today's game.
Yeah.
He didn't get a penalty for that. So guess what? There's a half and half penalty on either side that's washed away. And then Jamie Benn comes
Continue the sequence.
Throws his stick in behind Johnson's leg, then moves his stick forward with his knee, and then also grabs his shoulder and yanks him to the ice. And
Straight
people
up
are saying
clothesline.
that Tyler Johnson dove.
Yeah. Give me a break.
Pardon?
Like, first of all, let's look at stature. Okay. You see the stature difference.
Oh, yeah,
okay?
I also saw that. Oh, Jamie Benn's stronger than Tyler Johnson and he gets the penalty. Oh, my God, no.
But, like, and yeah, you can't call that, you can't, what's the word I'm looking for? Negate the penalty because of that anyway, in my opinion, especially the way that he takes him down, too. Like, yeah, that's tripping, that's holding, that's interference.
I feel like people got very upset when they called it tripping, even though the stick was behind the foot and propelled the foot forward.
Yeah.
I'm not really sure why people got all upset on what they called it. That was a penalty.
Well, and then
they deserved to get scored on.
Yeah.
And
it's great.
Watching Jamie Benn sit in the penalty box as his team loses
It was
is
just great.
so fantastic.
Yeah. Cheers
as
to that.
an Avs fan.
Cheers to that.
And then I saw like a ton of Avs fans with the old the cheap shot from Jamie Benn where he kneed Johnson in the leg after his injury, right? Man, the amount of people that just would send that as their like, oh, it must suck, doesn't it?
Right.
Oh, that was lovely.
Well, and
that was lovely.
that's my whole thing about not why the ref calls that call, but it definitely increases his likelihood to call this fucking penalty when you just look at the fucking playoffs that Jamie Benn has already played this year.
How many times has Jamie Benn slew at a guy?
Dude, you don't think those refs have got that motherfucker underneath a magnifying glass every single time he's near a battle or something?
See, I believe you, except for I've watched Corey Perry with what he did against the Avs, and it's just like, are you guys even paying attention to how greasy these two are?
Yeah, true.
Right? And it's just like, I hope, and I said it before too, I hope that's the right thought.
Yeah.
I hope the refs actually are watching extra hard. But with the Avs series against Corey Perry, and then what Jamie Benn's got away with since, I don't know if they care.
Well, and then you already pointed out the embellishment by point when he's getting sticked in the balls and the stomach.
So,
like,
I've seen everybody say that he got speared in the balls, and like, that's generally what the NHL calls that. But really, he got hooked in the balls.
Yeah. I'll give him the benefit of the doubt too with that.
But still, like,
you're getting hooked in the balls though, dude.
And I saw it a million times on Twitter too. These refs have no balls. And that's exactly what it was. It wasn't that they thought he dove. It's that they didn't want to be the guys that called a penalty that ended basically ended the Stanley Cup. Now, obviously this was game 4. This wasn't for the cup. But they didn't want to be the ones that gave the Tampa Bay Lightning a 3-1 lead with less than 2 minutes to go in a game that was probably going to overtime.
Yeah, you don't want to be that extreme of a factor.
That doesn't matter. That's not your job. Your job is not to call it even. And we've had this argument a million times. We had it with Mike from Clean Skate.
Mm-hmm.
The referee's job is not to call it even. It's to call it fair.
Yeah.
If you take penalties and you take more penalties than the other team, call the fuck penalties. as a fan, it's really hard to watch. It's really hard to watch and be unbiased and not watch like, oh, that could have been a call on us. They didn't call it. That could have been a call on them. They didn't call it. It's really hard to watch as a fan and be unbiased and be able to watch the leniency the refs are giving to each team.
Mm-hmm.
But that is blatantly just straight up, I want to keep it even.
Yeah.
Not I want to keep it fair. I want to keep it even. And it was a joke. And it's absolutely gutless from those refs.
For Corey Perry, of all people.
Yeah, exactly. From Corey Perry, of all people.
It's like what I said to you when we were talking about that call is like, do you think if Matthew Tkachuk does that too, that the whole fucking, like...
people are just going to lose their shit.
Yeah, like, we know. You're a little bit of a shitbag, and yeah, you're probably going to do some of those things.
There's a reason it was Corey Perry that did that,
right.
And not, I don't know, Heiskanen.
Cogliano or something.
Yeah, right? Like, there's a reason it was Corey Perry.
Yeah.
If it was Heiskanen or something, you're like, okay, maybe he gets the benefit of the doubt. But guess what? That's why he didn't do it.
Yeah. Who does these things? Like,
Corey Perry and Jamie Benn. Wow, weird, crazy.
Corey Perry, what a saint.
I just need the Tampa Bay Lightning to finish it up, because as much as I want to watch a Game 7 in the Cup final, I cannot watch Dallas have a chance.
Yeah.
I can't do it. For those, I don't know. I don't know who has or has not seen, but I believe it was NBC or somebody had the map, the U.S. map of who's cheering for who.
Oh, yeah.
And Colorado was apparently cheering for Dallas. Hard
sense.
Fucking no.
Makes sense, right?
Hard fucking no. Like, get out of here.
Yeah. No one's... Maybe it's... Yeah. No.
I've said it before. The only person that I would be slightly happy for is Hudobin.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
And my hatred for the other guys definitely outweighs the happiness for Dobby.
Yeah, I don't see how you can, other than if you're a Dallas fan, and obviously you fucking support your team, but I just don't see how the majority of fans of the league of any team can support Dallas, and like who's on their team, the characteristics that they've shown throughout this playoffs is just absolutely fucking asinine. Like,
you're nuts. Whoever the hell came up with that map, I don't believe your survey at all.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I mean, please, Monday night, please end it.
Yeah,
Please.
I mean, I hope so, and it's kind of like what we were talking about too, and you're saying, you know, like I don't see how Tampa doesn't win this series after it was 3-1.
There's been one team in the history, well, not in the history, but like since the 1929 or something.
Right.
One team has come back from down 3-1, and it was actually 3-0, and that was the Maple Leafs beating the Detroit Red Wings in like 42 or something.
Yeah, yeah.
And
it's been a long time.
This is the cockroach Dallas Stars.
This
like,
would be the fucking year that this would happen too,
exactly.
right?
It's COVID. Like, this would be the year.
It would
Please,
be.
let's not have it happen.
Don't do it.
Please don't. I can't have this in my life. No.
Oh man, let's not even just take it out of my brain.
I couldn't imagine what my heart would feel if the Avs were in the Cup final right now. Like, I don't know how I would be able to handle this.
Yeah.
I would have a heart attack every single night. Every single night.
Yeah, it was enough just playing Dallas, right?
Yeah. But please, Tampa Bay, for the love of all that is holy, please just win in Game 6.
Yeah.
Again, Game 7 would be fun, but I don't think it would be fun for a lot of Avs fans.
Yeah, I mean, that's the scary thing. Once you put it to that Game 7, obviously anything can happen, but then you have the fact that they had just won 2 in a row. That's a scary thought. So.
All the pressure. It's just like the Avs in Game 7 against the Stars, right?
Yeah.
All the pressure goes from the Avs to the Stars, because it's like, man, if you blow this, just think about it. And for Tampa Bay, if they blow this after what they did last year,
right, dude,
after they got swept by the Columbus Blue Jackets in the first round last year,
I couldn't imagine.
This just seems like the storybook ending for them to win the Cup,
right?
Totally redeem themselves from last year, all that stuff. But man, if they freaking choke this away,
yeah,
woo,
that would be a vicious ending for sure.
That being said, we have promised, sort of, I guess. We have hinted that we were going to talk to these guys when the Calder Trophy was announced. It's a little later than expected because, I expected the Calder Trophy to be named I don't know, 3 weeks ago. But that didn't happen, so it has finally happened. So now we're going to jump in with the boys from Stick and Rink. Well, I guess the boy from Stick and Rink, Elijah. As promised, this week's guest from, the beautiful world of Vancouver, Elijah from Stick and Rink. You guys may have heard their little ad thing from I don't know, a month ago? Elijah, when was it?
Yeah.
When did you guys get a promo?
I think we were around the middle of August, something like that.
Yeah, there you go.
Right.
Yeah.
And finally we get answers on who wins the Calder. So, naturally we have to have them on. So, how upset are you right now?
Well, you know what? I'm not sure if you took it as a sign, but I tried to set the tone in the room in this chat by just making sure I made you guys wait at least 20 minutes for me.
Fair.
That wasn't by accident. I just feel that you're kind of the only Avs fans I know that I'm close with, so I felt like you guys deserve that just as a representation of the brand. So
that's fair. I guess that's
bullshit.
fair.
We can start with this bullshit, but whatever. I'm willing to take it in stride here. What do you guys? How do you guys actually think? Sell me on Cale Makar.
Cale Makar. So
sell me on Makar versus Hughes.
This is the problem with this matchup: the Cale Makar versus the Quinn Hughes Calder brace. They're such a similar beast that it's really, really hard to sell one or the other. Obviously, we're gonna sell Cale Makar because we get to watch Cale Makar every day. You guys are gonna sell Quinn Hughes every day because you get to watch him every day. They're such similar beasts, but I feel Cale Makar has a more complete game and has a little more offensive upside, even though the points weren't there. But the goals are there for Cale Makar. He played a few less games. It's just I feel like he was just a little bit better. Not a ton. Definitely not miles better. It definitely wasn't the difference between Cale Makar and Quinn Hughes versus Kubalik. I don't think that difference was nearly as much. But that's the problem with trying to sell this is Cale was just a stud. And maybe for us, part of the problem is the fact that he was such a stud in the playoffs last year too. We get that little feeling of extra games almost.
Yep.
Where Quinn Hughes didn't get that. And I don't know if the media did that. I don't know if the voters felt that way, but I don't know. I would have felt the exact same way as you coming into this if Quinn Hughes would have won the Calder too. So I don't blame you.
It actually surprised me that the first place votes were so lopsided.
Me too.
That's something I did not expect at all. I think it was Cale had just over 110 or something first place votes, and then Quinn had 52 or something
like that. Yeah.
I was like, holy shit.
It's a widespread. Yeah. I think my first. Sorry, Jared.
No, go ahead.
I'll jump in here. My first take on it is you're right. When we shove the shit aside and we actually say our opinion, it was anyone could have won that trophy. Yeah. It's the right answer either way. I'm very interested to say, because the one notch I will say against Quinn Hughes, and this is kind of just my intuition speaking, is that I feel like in year two, when the league has time to look at these players and other players start to scout them more, and the book is out on them, that's the phrase people use, I feel like Quinn Hughes is much more vulnerable to that kind of league figuring him out kind of idea, because he's a very, I would say that Makar and Hughes are both great skaters, but Makar doesn't have that evasiveness like Hughes does. Hughes is 5'11" and he's buzzing around trying, and he almost looks like a football player juking people on skates. But so I definitely feel like the book might be out a little bit more on Hughes next year, so I'm a bit worried about that. And I think that's, and maybe for a point from the other side for the Canucks is that it was easier to cheer on Quinn Hughes because he was by far and away our best defenseman on a team that didn't really have high expectations. Whereas the Avs, it was a juggernaut going into the season, and he was a big reason why, but part of a many different headed monster, right?
Very true. And I saw that as an argument for Quinn Hughes going into this. But the one thing that we argued was the fact that you look at the Avalanche this year and just the injuries upon injuries upon injuries. And the two guys that kept stirring the drink was Nathan MacKinnon and Cale Makar. And they were fine. They could push through any injury until they lost either one of them. And when they lost Cale Makar, it was big time. And then right before the break, they lost McKinnon, and that's when you saw it too. And yes, McKinnon was second place in Hart voting. Like, obviously, Vancouver didn't have that.
Yeah.
Which definitely helped Cale Makar's case. But watching some of... And again, Quinn Hughes had these too, and that's the argument, right? But watching some overtimes and some of, like, Cale Makar's, like, really top-of-the-line highlights, he could do it by himself, completely by himself. And the Avs won overtime games purely based on Cale Makar's shoulders. Don't worry about Nathan McKinnon. Don't worry about Rantanen. Don't worry about anybody else that was on the ice. He made that play, and he won them games. Which, again, Quinn Hughes did that too.
Definitely, yeah. And I would say one thing with rookies that didn't really happen with either of these guys, what I noticed was that, you know, you usually take the good with the bad. But rookies are getting to a point now where there's no bad. Like,
and they have to be.
One or two plays.
They have to be because the way the NHL cap is, right?
Exactly, yeah. And they're almost your most important players when it comes to having success in the playoffs.
If you can get a guy making under $1 million to play like a guy that should be making 6 or 7, man, that changes your entire roster.
It really does. Maybe I'll pose a question to you here. I'm wondering, so because I didn't get a chance, especially to watch that Stars Avs series a lot. Like, is there any knock on Makar in that series, or like he definitely wasn't the reason you lost, but there was some moments with Quinn Hughes against the Knights where, you know, he was exposed a bit.
Yeah,
what was the knock on Makar for the playoffs?
I'm not sure if Makar necessarily got exposed against the Stars, but he definitely made some mistakes.
Yeah,
you've definitely seen highlights of that series where he basically scored on his own net.
Yeah,
right. And I wouldn't put that on the Stars exposing him. I think that was just a lapse in judgment. Maybe he was tired. I don't know what it was. But for me, thankfully, the votes were already tallied for the Calder.
Yeah, I mean, just like there was times of, I mean, I don't know if it's lapse in judgment or focus or whatnot, but I think that's just growing pains as well. And I mean, like we said, like these guys are rookies. Like these guys are still young players. So that shit's gonna happen.
The other thing with that question is the fact that the reason I don't think he got exposed necessarily is because I don't think the Dallas offense overpowered Cale Makar ever. Like, I don't think they ever, skated around him or overpowered him down low or anything like that. It was some of the mistakes he made were just bad judgment, opposed to most rookies, especially rookie defensemen, just getting straight up burned, right?
Yeah.
That's how I felt it in that series. Another thing with that series was losing Eric Johnson definitely put Makar in a very different spot.
Yeah. And I felt that effect too when Edler in our series, when Myers went down early going to the playoffs like that. Even like you said, it's not even. I don't know. Does Eric Johnson play with Makar?
No, not normally.
Yeah,
he started the year with him, but
it's not even your D partner. But it's just. I mean,
you just see different matchups
for everyone.
Yeah, you see different matchups all of a sudden, right?
Yeah, and plus that caused kind of a shuffle of our D lines too. And then we were kind of sitting there. You could tell Bednar was kind of like, okay, well, we tried this last game, that didn't work, so let's try a little bit something different. I don't know. And you saw a rise in Makar's ice time too. Obviously when Johnson went down. So, I mean, yeah.
It's tough. Injuries happen, especially to the Avalanche. But that's, again, going into free agency, that's why I'm hoping that they can upgrade on the D side of the puck, which, man, it's going to be hard because I don't see Pietrangelo coming to here. And
it's tough because that we'd be looking for a more defensively responsible kind of D-man, right? Like another...
Like Jared Spurgeon that just got locked up.
Yeah.
Not Spurgeon. It was Brodin, right?
Yeah, Jonas Brodin.
Yeah.
And
I think he got a Tyler Myers contract, a nice 6 for 6 or something like that.
Probably worth it a little more than Myers.
And then you kind of like
you're talking to a Myers truther right now, man. I don't know. I'll take the 20 minor penalties as long as they get a 6'7" defenseman.
I mean,
yeah, I like Myers too.
So Jared is a little half-ass Jets fan too, so he's a Myers fan as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, they could have used it.
Well, I mean, like, what's your how does the fan base and how do the Offside by a Mile boys feel about Zadorov? Like, what's his role in this grand scheme?
Oh God, the amount of times
we've lost our shit frequently with Big Z. That's for sure.
The problem with Big Z is the fact that we know what he can be, He can be a legitimate number one defensive guy on your team. But the amount of times that he's just controller disconnected guy.
Yeah.
Trained
He's
is
a ghost out there, right?
Yeah, right. And what the hell was Verhaeghe in game 5 in the cup final?
Man, he even had some
He literally
pretty shitty plays last
he
night.
skated by the net, and I can't remember what Star scored, but it was just like, it was the Perry goal from game 4.
Yeah.
But Zadorov does that exact same thing. It's an easy play if he stops in front of the net, but Zadorov just loves to just skate by the net and go behind the net. Now he's doing nothing, and man, it's just...
He tends to be a floater for sure on occasion.
Yeah.
The problem for us, the problem for the Avs is the fact that is the exact defenseman they need. They need a defensive guy. They don't need any more skill. They don't need any more offensive upside guys. They need somebody that is legitimately just to stay at home, just do whatever you have to do to keep the puck in your net. That's all they need, and that's what Zadorov could be, and that's the problem.
Yeah, because you
kills
look at because you look at the pipeline, right? We got like Byram, like that guy's going to be probably another stud coming up here. You never even know if that guy's going to be fighting for Calder next year as well. But we don't really have like that stay at home kind of responsible, guy. I mean, Graves has kind of gotten there a little bit, but
I'm gonna after on our next recording session, I'm gonna purposely get Josh and I'm gonna send him a clip to you guys, because if you get this guy talking about Bowen Byram, all he did was go to like one WHL game and saw this guy play, and now he thinks he's fucking Darren Dreger and he's got every insider information on this guy. He'll pump your tires. You'll think you'll have another Norris winner on your.
There we go. Perfect. We'll have to bring him on.
Yeah.
Hopefully he's right.
But yeah, to me that's the problem with Big Z, is the fact that if he leaves and does the old change of scenery thing and kills it doing exactly what we need him, it's going to be so rough. But I don't know if he can do it here. I don't think. And
yeah, I'm a big fan of continuity. Like, I think even as sports fans, we were talking before we started just about sane sports fans and not being outrageous with your opinions. Like, even with that, it's still impossible not, like, whenever there's only one team that wins, whenever your team doesn't win, it's impossible not to try and tinker with things and overhaul things where you think guys messed up. But I'm just a big fan of teams like St. Louis, like Washington, who, their core is always together, and you retool everything almost every year. But I'm wondering if Zadorov, just because of what you said, like what he could be when you guys finally win the cup, I think he's a piece you got to keep around, like even through the bad years, right?
Yeah, it's so hard just with how much we've lost our mind over him this year.
And I mean,
talk about keeping players, man. Like this market is, dude. I feel like I'm.
The Canucks market is
every day of the year. When we talk about free agency and contracts, it's a rough one.
So speaking of free agency, we were kind of talking before we started recording too about the Avs needs and the fact that if they could legitimately upgrade at goaltending, that would be sweet. My pick for that, because to me he's the only option in the goaltending market of free agency that can guarantee you an upgrade. That's Markstrom. I don't imagine Jimmy's going to let him walk, right? I assume you don't think that's going to happen either, right?
Well, I mean, I'm sure everyone knows this. Like, the 3 games that Demko played when he went down against Vegas, like, that completely changed the narrative. Almost everyone was on the side of, Demko was up and down when he had his chance, so I guess we expose him and we sign Markstrom. After those 3 games, the market, we've been going back and forth, and so is the information that we've been given by all the insiders and stuff. So I think lately where it's settled down on is that Jimmy is most likely going to give him somewhere between 5 and 6, probably for about 4 or 5 years, most likely with a no move clause. And I imagine he's going to try and move. He's going to go into the season with both these guys and pretty much put off his decision until the deadline, see what kind of team he has. And that's a scary thing to do with the expansion draft coming up. Like, that's
also a really scary thing to do if you're going to give him a no move too.
Well, that's the thing, because you're keeping both, but you're essentially saying, like, Demko, you're either getting traded or you're getting drafted, one of the two.
Yeah, that's nuts, because
I know that's
like, we talked pretty extensively last week on our episode about both of them, and I definitely agree that you can't bet the farm on Demko after 3 games, right? Because I mean, you look at Pittsburgh and Matt Murray. He won them 2 Stanley Cups, and now he barely stops pucks.
Yeah.
Never mind, played 3
But
games and went.
Was that still not the right move though?
No,
Like,
I
even looking back,
100% think. I think them keeping Murray was the right move.
Yeah.
Because of age, because of all the factors that led to them keeping him. But again, right? Matt Murray. Matt
Sorry,
Murray.
that's the boys.
Yeah.
They're rolling out.
But Matt Murray, right? He led them to Stanley Cups, and now all of a sudden that happens. But Demko, he plays 3 games, and he played outrageous. But putting your entire future of the organization on Demko right now would be crazy to just straight up let Markstrom walk.
Exactly, and I think one of the things. Sorry, Jared, I'll throw it to you after this. One of the things that I find just interesting is how a season like this completely changes your expectations of next year. Like I'm on the train right now that for the Canucks, next year is a success if they make the playoffs. That's it. That's the bar. It doesn't go up because you had a great year right here. But in order to do that, I think by going with Demko, like you're pretty prone to a regression in net there. And I don't know if that team can afford this. And, if you have 1 or 2 mediocre years after this build upon year, it can really like undo a lot of good things. So I think even keeping Markstrom around to just keep that, once again, the continuity, keep the ball rolling, the momentum, right?
Especially too with next year being the condensed schedule we're probably looking at too.
Yeah,
you're gonna want to have
the flat cap. There's so many different elements here.
Yeah, it's a toss up.
What's the visual like? Can you guys see the absolute swimming pool that's on my face right now?
No, you look fine.
Okay, because it feels like my car's 40 degrees right now.
Is it pretty hot in Vancouver right now still?
Yeah, no, that's. I guess you guys are Fahrenheit guys, but 40 is a lot. But
no, we're not.
In Vancouver, we just finished our first rainstorm of the fall.
Oh, so. Perfect. Lucky you. So you mean your first and first of 100 rainstorms?
Yeah, exactly. It's the next 6 months of our life is what that is.
Yeah. You guys are so lucky. We're not Fahrenheit guys. We're from Calgary, so don't worry. We got you.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
That makes it a bit easier.
We're just getting ready for our first snowstorm of the year.
Yeah, right.
Oh, boys, shut down the roads.
Yeah.
Shut down the highways. You don't need COVID for that, man.
Yeah.
The weather will do it.
Anyway, you got to run, don't you? Oh boy. There you are.
We still there?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, we got you.
Okay.
So you got to run, don't you?
Issues here. What was that?
You got to run, don't you?
Yeah. My boys just headed out there. We're gonna finish watching the NFL schedule here.
Nice.
I've got some ridiculous picks on the spread. I'm on the Jets plus 11, probably one of the only guys in the world. But let's go for
that
it.
Is quite the bet.
There you go.
Good luck with that.
Yeah.
I will not be joining you on that bet, but I mean, hopefully you make some money.
Yeah, thanks, man. Appreciate
anyway,
it. Boys, it's been fun, all right?
Yeah, it's been a blast.
Man.
Thanks for joining us, and we'll have to get your co-host on to talk about some Bowen Byram one of these days.
I'll send you a clip of him. I'll even get the video for it too. He looks like an absolute oaf.
Perfect. Thanks.
Excellent.
All right.
Have a good one,
All right,
man.
thanks, boys.
Hell yeah, man.
Okay, take it easy.
You too.
Bye.
Awesome. Well, thanks again to Elijah from Stick and Rink, and definitely looking forward to the clip/talk with his co-host about Bowen Byram. That is going to be hilarious. We always need another host or 6 on the podcast, so why not? Why not have somebody who's a bigger fan than us of one of our prospects? It'd be awesome.
Hell yeah.
But until then, thanks for tuning into this week's episode, and we will catch you next Monday after the 2020 NHL draft and the start of free agent frenzy. Please just don't sign Taylor Hall. That's it. That's all I want. The biggest thing you can do to support us is by going to iTunes or Apple Podcasts and giving us a 5-star rating. Also, if you're looking to donate to the network, visit the Hockey Podcast Network's Patreon page. All donations go straight to the podcast host. Thanks, and see you next episode.
You're listening to the Hockey Podcast Network on Twitter @HockeyPodNet. New episodes every Monday and Thursday. Download at thehockeypodcastnetwork.com or wherever you get your podcasts from.